Still watching Morning at NTV. I'm Arnold Segawa. If you are joining us just about now, if you're just joining us right now and you have no idea where we are, well, we are at Kapveli. You can see the fancy background. You know, you can always join the fray here. Just join the conversation as always. You can also talk to us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at NTV Uganda. Arnold Segawa, like I said before, let's shift gear just a bit and talk about the creative space. We did get news earlier on in the week that well, I wouldn't say under siege, but there's a few changes. There's a new guard in town, of course, in line with the UCC regulations. And to just try and unpack this particular conversation, I do have Andrew Kakwa, who happens to be a, well, should I say, a journalist or former journalist with the Daily Monitor. Andrew, thanks for making time to speak to us.
Yeah, I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist with the Daily Monitor. I think I'm also an art activist.
Yeah.
You know, at times people tell me they do not really know if I'm still a journalist because I speak a lot on behalf of that. But
we just like to cover our bases. Andrew,
yeah.
So what do you make of the proposed change in direction that's coming from the regulator?
One of the very first things I would say is this shows that we are dealing with a government that do not believe that art is a commercial kind of work like all the other things. For instance, I'll tell you, we have farming, we have doctors. Like when a doctor writes a paper about someone's health and it will be used in the future, that paper will not be, no one will look at it before, and if it goes the way it is and people follow it to the T, someone might die, but no one is going to look at it. It's the same thing with planting food and everything. Like no one will ask you what are you putting in the soil or everything, but if that food is wrong, someone would die if they eat it. Yes.
But of course, what the UCC might argue here, as a regulator, what the argument could be is the same way how banks are regulated, the same way how the medical profession is regulated. You just wake up and set up a clinic somewhere.
Yes.
Maybe the media space, the creative space also does need some quote-unquote regulation.
The only difference with banks and hotels or all these other things is that you wake up and actually create these things, and so you ask for a license. Art is the way of life. Like what we are doing right now is a show, but on another day this will be art. Like art is the way of life. Today I could be talking, you just throw a beat to this and it's a rap song. So you do not just wake up and you tell me, okay, you had to tell me before you created what you were saying. But come on, even when I was saying it, I didn't know I was creating. So that's the whole thing about art, is that art can be anything. And the people that are trying to regulate it actually have no idea that art can be everything. Art is spontaneous. At times you do not know that you're even creating, but you just find yourself create.
Let's talk about the issue of the comedians and what the West calls satire. Now, satire is I don't want to try and give an explanation for it, but it's very elaborate and very meticulous.
Yes.
The way there's a certain nuance to it. You don't just wake up and tell a knock-knock joke. Do you get the sense that, in a way, the amendments and the new regulation that is proposed is in reaction to the political satire that has come to the front, and you know, the likes of the Bizonto, and how they put a particular nuance to whatever they're saying? Is it a kind of a reactionary response?
I think it's a reaction response to a lot of things, not just the political satire that's going on. There was a time when these people did not know the power of art, and then some dude walks up, some dude comes up with these songs, and before you know, he's in parliament. Yeah. And of course, it wasn't serious enough, but then he became a kingmaker. Started supporting people, and all those people were ending up in parliament. So in a way, they started realizing, okay, this art is not just about people laughing and dancing to it. It gets to people's minds. And right now I feel like, regardless of the sense this is coming in, it might not be very political, but it is not in a very good sense, and it's coming to clamp down or to trim the wings of some people. But in this case, they are the creatives
It's quite interesting. I'm actually going through your piece from on the Daily Monitor. It's actually page 28 today.
Yeah.
And you do allude to this. You do mention, in the 70s, we did see one of the plays, Alex Mkulu's. You do go on to touch on a few. You create some sort of retrospect that paints the picture of this didn't happen overnight. John Segawa had another one.
Yeah.
If we were to look at this in a retrospective manner, it's interesting the retrospect that you show, and fast forward to where we are now, and it's only until someone becomes a kingmaker that it dawns on, it occurs to someone that, oh, hold up, this could mean something.
The thing is, history keeps rewriting itself. There was a time when artists were talking about issues. They were clamped down, some were killed, and others left the country. And this stopped many people from creating very critical art. And people started making jokes, people started writing about love. If you remember, much of the productions we grew up watching were actually about romance. They were just making us laugh. But then, of course, if things do not change, somehow people will be forced to talk about some things that are not going right in the society.
Then where does that leave the UCC? Is the UCC now becoming the judge, the jury, and the executioner? Or is, because now there's towing a very thin line between being the Uganda Media Council, the creatives sort of regulator, being the oversight of the telecom companies, and being the...
One UCC has no business talking about
I think UCC needs
art.
a bigger building.
Right now, UCC has no business talking about art. Let's talk about this way. Like when we have the UNCC, that's the Uganda National Cultural Center, which most people think is a place, but it's an institution, which sits at the National Theatre. Those people are supposed to oversee the creative industry or the creative economy. UCC is supposed to be talking to telecoms and media houses about the content they have. Now, that content might be art, but UCC is not supposed to regulate the creation of that content. They are not supposed to control the creative process of that content. And I think for me, that's the biggest problem about this all, is that they are coming to oversee the creation, the process of creating this content, which is not their work in any way.
It's interesting when you mention the process of creation, and we've seen governments toppled with music. We've seen governments, Mobutu Sese Seko at the height of his reign, he would have a song done on him or about him almost every week. We've seen, in the election campaigns, people go to campaign with a song.
To Bonga now.
Yeah, among others. Among others. So this leaves me wondering. There's a gentleman here in today's Daily Monitor. I think his name is Mendo, the one who imitates the dear president. Is it okay for someone who is a sympathizer with the incumbent regime to have some sort of satire? And if you go on the other side and your satire is criticism or critiquing the incumbent regime, then we might have a problem.
Truth is, it should be okay for the two to coexist.
Mendo has been at it forever.
Art mirrors the society. Like I said earlier, art is the way of life. It mirrors society. When people are going to act or depict what they see, if it's okay for me to depict the good things the president has done or the good things about the president, it should be very okay for me to depict the bad ones I do not like about the president, or the ones that he thinks are not good enough. Like, art mirrors the society. If the society is not good enough, you're not going to force art to paint it in a very positive light. If the society is too bad, that's what art will show you. What's happening right now is that I think our laws, or whoever is designing the laws, does not like the picture we are painting as creatives.
Away from the picture, well, in line with the picture that's being painted, I want to allude to a scholar who is synonymous with the public sphere, Jorgen Habermas. He's written so much, well, in the past 30, 40 years on the public sphere. And part of his work alludes to the French society, I think it is before 1789, before the French Revolution, where cafes and bars became synonymous with the public sphere. And of course now the construct of a public sphere is us meeting here, and we just talk about what is happening, what the status quo is. And cafes in France at the time became a place where people just talk and critique the monarch at the time. This, for me now, the creative space has in sort become the public sphere, you know, the modern day public sphere. And who's then right to come out and critique you, the regulator, if they are watching what the public sphere, what is being said in the public sphere? Is it right for us to come out and critique?
It has always been right. I think it's our right even to actually create, to actually critique. What did you say again? To critique the regulator.
Yeah.
It has always been our right to critique the regulator. And in cases like this where we do not even know if this regulator should be regulating us to begin with, I think we have all the reasons to actually critique this regulator. But I think art always has a right to critique anyone, even if it means critiquing itself.
But I mean, it creates a very gray area. Have you seen the charges, the rap sheet, let's say for the comedians who are taken away, the four of them? Have you seen the rap charges, and what do you make of that?
Actually, the funny thing is, I talked to one of the comedians that was taken away, and he told me by the time they were released, they had not really charged them. Which means right now, these comedians even have a chance to sue those people for keeping them illegally.
For over 48 hours?
Yes. And you see, the only thing I hate about artists is that they usually let things go. I wouldn't want them to let this go. I wouldn't want them to take their freedom now as tokenism and they let this go. I wish they push ahead and actually sue these people for keeping them illegally.
What's your take on, if we're to talk about the proposed regulations of sorts, the Stage Play and Public Entertainment Rules 2019, and then the Uganda Communications Commission Film, Documentaries and Commercial Still Photography Regulations 2019. I want you to just break those down for me critically. I have not personally read them, I will not lie to you, but for me and our viewers out there, what do you make of the two? Is there an overlap? Because there's been talk of that, there's an overlap where someone actually went on and copied and pasted something that was already existent. What do you say to this?
I'll paraphrase them. One, when you ask a filmmaker, I'll be quite specific about filmmakers. When you ask a filmmaker to write their script and bring it to you so that you pass it ready, one, you're taking away their rights of creation because now you're trying to co-create with them. But then the problem with that is we have a media council. This media council usually watches the films people make, and they'll give them ratings. Right now, I do not know if their role is to even just rate movies or tell us, okay, I see a bit of pornography, it's against our laws. Right now, they are not doing that. Right now, they are very political. I'll tell you that there was a time we tried to show a film about a Cameroonian rapper who is more like Bobby Wine, and they stopped us from showing the film without giving us a reason, even after paying a lot of money for it. Now, the problem is we have a media council which watches the films to at times censor or give them a rating. And now UCC is also trying to censor these films even before they are made. So one wonders, what is the role of the media council if the UCC is trying to even watch these films before they are made via reading them?
But then, Mike, it's quite interesting what you set out, and then it just leaves me wondering, at that particular point, don't you get the sense that the media council is watching the creation before, and then the UCC is trying to watch even what comes in? Or vice versa, actually. UCC watches what is being made here, then the Uganda Media Council is watching even foreign movies and everything, and has the right to stop.
What UCC is trying to do is not their job. It's no one's job. Like, you do not want to tell me how to think or how I should think. I'm a creative. Like, I know why I've written Y with just a Y and not WHY. Like, I know why I'm doing that. So what UCC at the moment is doing is trying to tell me, no, you're not supposed to write WHY, just write it as Y. Like, that's you taking away my rights to think and actually create, which is wrong.
Andrew, as always, very good to talk to you and share your views. You can catch Andrew's piece. It's actually in today's Daily Monitor, page 28 and 29. Very, very fascinating stuff indeed. Andrew Kagwa, who's a journalist with the Daily Monitor, just giving us the technicalities of the creative space. We're still at Kaveli, having some very strong coffee, you could tell from my eyes. We're going to take a short break. NTV, Morning at NTV continues after this.